All right. We are back for Roundtable Ravens episode number 23. I am once again joined by Billy Melissa. Buddy is not with us. He is doing some personal stuff and he will be out for the remainder of this week. He will be back next week with us. And then I will be out for a couple of weeks because I am going on a much needed vacation, but that is neither here nor there. Let's just jump right into everything we have to talk about Ravens football. Kind of a lot going on, which is great.
Mm.
Um, rookie minicamp just wrapped up. The Ravens have now added a huge player, and there's just a bunch of other stuff going on. Um, at the top of the hour here, or rather, 30-ish minutes. Um, Calais Campbell is back. Bam, 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 bam.
Woo!
He returns to the Ravens on a 1-year deal, and this is honestly a huge signing for so many reasons. I love everything about it. I am so happy for the Ravens that they brought in someone like Calais Campbell. This well, it's kind of twofold. It's good because it's Calais Campbell. Like this dude has been a consummate pro his entire career. He's 40 years old already, I believe it is. He's entering his 19th season. I want
He's
to
been around.
He's been around, but he's been a huge leader. I mean, when he was on
He's
the Dolphins,
39, so don't age him just yet.
39
He'll
years old.
be at the start of the season, he'll be 40.
Okay, so I think it's week one. He's like 40, right? Something like that.
September 1st, yeah.
Ouch. There you go. He'll be 40 when week one rolls around. But 6.5 sacks last season. The dude can still play with a high motor. He's one of those very weird ageless players that just seems to it doesn't matter what's going on. He continues to be fantastic. And it's great, but it's also kind of a little bit of bad news, I would say, or rather, it's kind of pointing to the fact that maybe Matabuke is not going to be ready to go at the start of the season, and Campbell is obviously a player that you want to bring in the building for leadership purposes, but also he's kind of a big insurance policy to get experience and depth on that defensive line with Matabuke potentially not being ready to play right away.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great pickup. I think Ravens fans have been asking for Calais to come back for years. There's been a much needed, or like his presence has been missed since he left a few years ago. I think he was last in Baltimore in 2022. So, he's not been there for a while, but I think that his like aura and presence is really, helpful for that defense. And putting all of his talent to one side, which is, to be 40 and still almost 40, sorry, Calais, almost 40 and still be, playing at the level that he's playing at, putting all of that to the side, like he's just a great guy. He's beloved by the fans, beloved by the city. I think that he's going to fit in nicely. It opens up a lot of questions about other potential, like, was anyone coming back? Like, his Matter BK coming? Like, we've spoken about it over and over again. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't necessarily point to anything about him not being back. I think you're right about like not being back for week one. I
Mhm.
think it's going to be a slow but sure thing, or even just like a rotational thing. Maybe he's coming in on a couple snaps. He's not, playing every single down. So I think it just shows that they're really padding out the issue that they've been having for a while. And it's good to see them addressing something, if not the center position, something is being addressed.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later here, but no,
Hmm.
I agree, and honestly, like it's a really a big testament to Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver. I would imagine
Yeah.
is high in on these decisions, but also like even for Eric DaCosta to like the Ravens have needed a strong pass rush no matter what, and I now they're fixing that. They got Trey Hendrickson, obviously the things didn't work out with Max Crosby, but bringing in Calais Campbell still points to that. It's like, yeah, like he may be entering his 19th season and 39 years old, but again, 6.5 sacks is pretty damn good
Yeah.
for being that age. And
And
it's
on a
that,
team that isn't fantastic, sorry, Arizona.
yeah, no, exactly. They're not a, they're not a defensive minded anything. They're not a much of
They're not an
anything.
anything team.
They really are. They've been kind of in this perpetual like rebuild themselves. So it's like
Yeah.
you're a standout player at that age on that defense. So
Hmm.
it's just really again it's a testament to fixing the pass rush. They've needed to do this, and they're continuing to do so in a major way. With we'll talk about him a little bit later as well, and Zion Young, but Calais Campbell being back again, for the main thing for me is that leadership quality. Like when
Yeah.
he was on the Dolphins, I was very happy about that because of just the way he presents himself, the way that he brings people along and he makes everybody around him better.
Yeah.
And so I think he and Anthony Weaver only worked together for 2 seasons, I believe it was, or was it one? Because
Yeah.
I think Anthony Weaver left in 2021. I
He
can't
was with
remember.
the Ravens as a coach 2021 to 2023. So actually he was
Two
with Calais,
seasons.
yeah, 2 seasons.
Yeah, so I mean that's probably a really good connection and a really big reason why Calais wanted to come back. And funny enough, through rumors and reports or whatever, uh, the Dolphins were actually trying to trade Calais Campbell to the Ravens in 2024, but that didn't happen. He ended up going to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
I don't know the details of what exactly happened, but they were attempting to trade him as they should because it's Calais Campbell. And like you kind of like you have to do right by that guy. Wherever he wants to go, you go, okay, sure, go.
Yeah.
Um,
They've been
but
trying to get him back in the building for a while. And I
yeah,
think, it's perfect now. Um, Anthony Weaver obviously knows exactly how he's going to use him. He fit in before he's going to fit in again. So I think it seems like the perfect fit for what they need right now. Obviously, it's not addressing a long-term issue,
no.
but I think that they've got that in Trey Hendrickson for now. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, but he's not 40. And he's not even a decade off of being 40 yet, I don't think.
Yeah, interestingly, this speaks to a kind of all-in approach, right? This kind
Yeah.
of speaks to like, hey, the Ravens feel like they have the pieces there. They're minus a few things like the center position, but they feel like they're right there. And they should, I mean, obviously injuries played a huge part of why 2025 went so
Yeah.
wacky. But now that everyone's healthy, now that you bring in that new, Dr. Nick Gill, the new health and performance guy, you try to mitigate those injuries, and then you're like, okay, we're gonna bring in the pieces now that we need. Obviously, like Calais Campbell, 1 year deal. It's not like it's not breaking the bank for the Ravens. They're not gonna be like, oh no, we don't have cap space to do send some more deals or whatever, and see what he can do. And if he wants to finish his career out with the Ravens, if he does really well this season, maybe they bring him back and he's like, "Hey, look, I got one more in me," and then they bring him back. We don't know. This
Yeah.
is talking for the future, but it's a really good move. It's really
Yeah.
great for so many reasons.
Yeah. He can sense, as well as the Ravens can sense, that they're on the cusp of something
Yeah.
and have been for the last few years. It's just, can they get over that final hurdle? Um, there's no telling at this point, really. But
No.
obviously, the NFL still had them because they released their power rankings post draft the
Yeah.
other week and they had Ravens at number 5. So even the league is still thinking highly of them despite everything that's
ESPN
happened.
had them at number 10, so they've been a top 10. And multiple, even before the draft, I believe they were still top 10. So, and they
Yeah.
have well, I don't know, I haven't looked at them in a while, but before we talked about this in a previous episode, but they still have the Ravens at one of the highest win totals at 11 and a half, sports books wise. So,
Yep.
and there's a lot of belief, and there should be. I mean, regardless, like you have Lamar Jackson, you have a huge chance at being
That
a
you need
playoff team.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But back to the pass rush and the defense, and obviously Jesse Minter's a defensive-minded coach. You got Anthony Weaver back in the building. You want to strengthen that, as we discussed before in previous episodes. You want to strengthen that defense and go back to what the Ravens have been known for, which is a strong defense across the
Yeah.
board. And so another player that potentially could make his return, though it's still up in the air, is Kyle Van Noy. We've also talked about Kyle Van Noy. We even though like the writing on the wall seems to say that he probably won't be back. He dropped a major hint that he could be back. He obviously is a big fan of the Ravens organization, how they treated him. He was on the Kay Adams show and he said, "quote when he was talking about when she asked if he has a good relationship with Eric DaCosta, he said, "Yeah, we have a great relationship. I have a great relationship with Mr. Bisciotti as well. I've been fortunate to have a relationship with a team like that. How open it's been, how respectful it's been. I think they're going to go all in, and I want to be a part of that. But I'm excited for this process. But I'm just going to be ready to go." So obviously, he didn't outright say that he is coming back, but he did say he wants to be a part of it. Obviously, I believe on Sport Track he had a projected like 1 year deal for 3.5 million, and I think again that's not really something that's going to break the bank for the Ravens. And if they can do that with Calais Campbell, why not bring back Kyle Van Noy, who's also that veteran presence in the locker room, who's also that guy that can usher in that new generation. They can help Mike Green. that can help Peebles, that can help Zion Young. Same in the same manner that Calais Campbell will. You strengthen that pass rush in a big way by bringing in these veteran voices to then impart that knowledge on those younger players and help them get better. Trey Hendrickson talked about Mike Green specifically. Trey Hendrickson obviously is another longtime veteran that's going to be in the building. So I think it would be smart to bring Van Noy back and be like, look, like I know his production took a major hit, 2.5 sacks, down from 12.5 is a huge drop off. But I mean, look at the Ravens defense in general in 2025 and just the team in general. Like the pieces weren't there for them to maximize their efforts for their playmakers.
Yeah, it's crazy that he's only been there 3 seasons because he feels like a born and
Yeah.
bred Raven. Like he's been there for his entire career. Like his presence is so, even when he isn't having that impact on the field for not any fault of his own, I really believe just put him opposite Trey Hendrickson. I think the issue is going to sort itself right out. But it's crazy to see that he really has only been there for 3 years because he does just make a difference. And I think he embodies what it means to be a Raven. And I think he elevates not just the skill set of everyone around him, but also the morale. He's a
Mhm.
great guy. He's always friendly. He's smiley. He's positive. He's just, I don't know, like I can't believe, and I was just having a look at it, like when I knew we were going to be talking about this, I was like, 3 years, really? That's all that he's been there for? And I think, he's been there through some incredible Ravens moments. He's been there through some of the peaks of Lamar's career. Like that 2023 and 2024 team really was something special. And I think that he feels an obligation to want to get to the end with them. He wants to see it through. And another Super Bowl under his belt to send him out for his career, I think is exactly what he wants. And I think that that's positive for the Ravens as well, that he still sees that in this new era. He did say something that gives me the shivers about Lamar, but like, I think that he sees something is really happening on this team and he wants to be part of it. And I think that he's going to be willing to take that deal. The only other thing that I could see going another way would be bringing back Clowney, who's
Yeah.
obviously just a slightly younger than him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. Yeah, he shouted out Nate Wiggins as well, and he said, like everybody sees, like you have those young pieces there. Hopefully Teddy Buchanan can come back like mid-season, or a
Yeah,
little bit before, depending on how he's been healing. There hasn't really been many updates on him because he tore his ACL like mid-season. So the expectation would be you're probably not coming back until mid-season if you even come
yeah.
back, but. You still got Mike Green, you still got Peebles, you got all those younger guys, you got Zion Young coming in, and who wouldn't want to be a part of that? The again, regardless of the injuries, the pieces are still there. You got Kyle Hamilton, you got Roquan Smith, you got Marlon Humphrey, you got Malachi Starks. You got those, you had those pieces there. So I would fully expect that the Ravens will make some sort of a deal, something
They've
before.
probably just been feeling it out. I don't
Yeah.
think that there's like, we definitely don't want him back. I think they're like, if it fits in the budget and it makes sense, then absolutely, like, why would we not want him back? I'm
Mhm.
just trying to see what they're like feeling out right now because the defense, while it seems like it's been fixed to an extent, it still feels like it's got holes there. And I wonder what they're planning and what the delay on this really is because it doesn't really make sense that they wouldn't have. But then again, he's not the kind of guy that you really need to think deeply about because he is someone that you can sign in at any point of the off season and just know that he's going to come slot straight back in, even though it is a whole new system. So I really wouldn't be surprised to see that gets done in the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of players are I mean, teams are waiting till June. That's kind of when they
Yeah.
start activating or start getting into more trades and more free agent pickups because you have to kind of start getting into training camp or right before training camp. And, you have your OTAs and then you have your mandatory mini camp and then you kind of see where your roster currently is. And if you're not liking your depth pieces, you're not liking the undrafted free agents or whatever, what have you, then you start considering those vet players.
Yeah. And I mean, he feels good. He said he thinks he's in the best shape he's ever been in, and that sounds great. If he really believes that. Obviously he's not going to say any different, but yeah, I don't know. I think I personally see Carl Van Noy coming back over Clowney or just anybody else. I think
Yeah.
that they're also probably going to feel out Madubuike and just like really have an in-depth conversation with him about like, and the doctors about realistically like what is the timeline and how we're going to move forward from here with that.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the major component right now. The major question for the Ravens right now is he coming back and when is he coming back? And obviously,
Yep.
there's hope that he's going to be back in the season, but nobody quite knows when because obviously, getting neck surgery is a big deal. So they don't know. They don't know, and they're still even though they're like, hey, like he had neck surgery, we're expecting him to be back. Now they're walking that back again. They're bringing it. They're like, I don't know. So obviously, it's touch and go with that, but adding those pieces is a big deal. And before we get into what um, he said about Lamar, let's put a pin in that one real quick because I do want to keep to the theme of pass rush and the theme of defense. In that, even though rookie minicamp was only 3 days, it is for every NFL team. Zion Young is impressing everybody already, which is
He is.
great news. So Ryan Mink, who is one of the writers on the official Baltimore site, went there and talked about him. He made a really good comparison, calling him Zion reminded him of Jason Pierre-Paul, which is great because Jason Pierre-Paul was a game wrecker, huge pass rusher, great player before the whole hand thing and all that stuff, but he still managed to be very formidable past that. But that being said, he compared Zion Young to that. He said he has that large frame. He's very imposing, and he said, "quotes on one of the first 11-on-11 plays of practice, Young burst upfield to push a run into the backfield, showing the kind of physical presence he'll be coming off the edge. And if you looked at videos, like yeah, like that dude is quick." That guy is
Hmm.
super fast, which just bodes well for the pass rush. And again, opening up opportunities for Calais Campbell, opening up opportunities for Travis Jones, for Roquan Smith to get in there.
Yeah.
Like there's just another level of defense, another level of hurriedness that you have to watch out for. And it's really impressive to see. And also during rookie minicamp, he also drew many, much praise from tight end Josh Cuevas, who they lined up with each other in college and I believe at the NFL Combine. And Cuevas had nothing but great things to say about Zion Young. He said, "quote, some coaches would ask me like, who's one of the hardest players you've gone against?" And initially, whoever popped in my head was Zion Young. And Zion Young, I mean, he's got so much potential and his ceiling is tremendously high. He does everything right. He's got a deep bag, spin move, push, pull, bull rush, everything. So
Yeah.
he's not only impressing coaches right now, and obviously again this is limited time. It's just rookie minicamp, and they practice a little bit, not with pads on. So everything's gonna change when you start getting the starters in there and all that. But regardless, like to have that kind of work ethic to impart that to impress coaches and your fellow players is a big deal. So
Yeah.
again, I think this is a really big get for the Ravens that he fell to them at that point in the second round. So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he's got a little chip on his shoulder and he's trying to show that he's really going to make the teams regret skipping over him. Um, yeah, no, I love that. I loved reading about the coming off the edge and stopping the run and showing good football IQ already because that is sometimes what you just need. You just need to be able to read what's happening before it happens. And I know that they've spoken a lot about like communication issues, and sometimes those can be remedied just by someone who knows what's happening. And Roquan is great at that too. But I think that just the last couple of years, there's been something off about that, and so I'm really excited for him and to see what he can deliver and how he can lend himself to this. And like I said, I think that chip on his shoulder is really going to lend itself to this great team. They've got Roquan around him, who Ray Lewis has taken him under his wing under over the last few years, and that's just an energy that is always needed on the field. Someone like that, someone with that intensity. And like you said, it's always great to see players complimenting one another. I know that actually teammates now, so maybe is a little bit more inclined to say as such, but it does mean something when a player says something like that, like what Cuevas said about Zion Young. So I think yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how it develops. I can't wait to see if he fits in and if he actually still maintains that when, the vets come into play. And if he continues to like draw eyes like that in a good way, then I think that, we're on something special with him.
Yeah, definitely. And again, in the manner that we were speaking about Kyle Van Noy and Calais Campbell, it's the same thing with Zion Young. He gets to learn from some of the best in the game. And
Hmm.
those communication issues that you brought up, that's the perfect reason why you bring in a Calais Campbell and why you try to bring
Yep.
back Kyle Van Noy, because whatever is fractured or not working, you need those veteran voices in there to kind of like be like, all right, guys, knock it the hell off, let's go. And what better person than Calais Campbell, who's been that guy at every team that he's been in? Again, his age, his length of time in the NFL, like the dude knows what's going on. So it's going to be great for Zion Young to learn from him, to learn from Roquan Smith, to learn from potentially Kyle Van Noy if he returns, and Matabuke when that happens as well. But like,
Yep.
there's all these,
And Hendrickson.
and Hendrickson. Hendrickson's going to be a big one for him. Teaching him his own pass rush skills and all that stuff. And it's going to be it's going to be great. Zion Young is like you said, that chip on his shoulder. I think is going to play a major part as well. He's gonna play like a Raven. He's gonna play tough. He's gonna play hard. He's gonna play hard on every down. And you need that. You need those. You need those guys that are constantly trying to win, and
Yeah.
that matters.
Yeah. And it's nice to see the Ravens actively getting back to that identity because it was so embarrassing last year. And I think even there's been times over the last couple years, even when they were at their greatest, where there's just been those small, like tiny cracks that could have been filled and that they just never really addressed. And there was just always something that, so I feel like it's going to be a really exciting era to see them get back to that identity. And it seems like, Zion Young is going to be part of that in a massive way.
Absolutely. Okay, now we can go back to what Kyle Van Noy said about Lamar Jackson. So you take it right away.
I was like, it made my ears prick up. I think that he kind of tripped on his words a little bit. I think that he was talking about wanting to return to this team and being excited to get back to them. And, he was like, oh, in Lamar, they don't really know like what's going on with his contract. And then he kind of pulled back on himself and kind of went back to speaking about himself. And he seemed very adamant that he would like to get back there to be with Lamar to get it done this year because the future isn't certain. And I'm feeling it with these five quarterbacks in the room.
Yeah, so
I'm feeling nervous.
before we get into that part, it'll lead into that part. But yeah, we've talked about this. We've said very
Yep.
plainly that the things seem to be pointing to the idea, whoa, the idea that um Lamar may be not happy, or rather trending in a way that he could potentially walk away from the Ravens. Um, they did not hammer out a deal. He had a restructure instead, which was already a kind of a problem because if you're not committed to a multi-year deal and you couldn't get anything done, that's not
Hmm.
necessarily maybe on the Ravens more so as it is Lamar not being happy with certain decisions being made or what have you. We talked about this with Tyler Linderbaum being gone. Obviously, paying 27 million a year was a lot, and obviously, I don't think the Ravens were anywhere close to that, but that had to have had a major impact on Lamar. It had to.
Hmm.
Anybody losing their top offensive lineman, the reason that you're protected most of the time would be upset about that too.
Yeah.
So,
And rightfully so, because that's
right,
your guy. That's the guy, that's your insurance right
yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, and you, that's kind of all you got.
Hmm.
The offensive line has been a mess for so many years, and we've talked about this over and over, and we're going to continue talking about. Like, they made some good moves, but were they the right moves?
Yeah.
Um,
And the right guy, and though it may have been a mess, but the one thing grounding it always was Tyler Linderbaum. He was the constant. And now him gone, it just opens up a lot of questions.
Yeah. And you got Ronnie Stanley, and then that's kind of it. And then it's just a
Yeah,
big
but he wobbled for a little bit because he
right.
had some injuries of his own.
He did, but I mean, and rightfully so because you're the
Yep.
only other one besides Tyler Linderbaum like doing your jobs. Andrew Voorhees was not good. Daniel Falale was not good. So it's hard to have to pick up the pace for a lacking offensive line.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that together, and then I'll still say it because I've said it before. I'm gonna continue saying it. My thing is, at what point does it? At what point does the organization finally go, okay, the problem is Eric DeCosta? You know,
Hmm.
the decisions made just a lot of them don't make sense, and they have to do with the center position in the offensive line. But it's just right now because Steve Bisciotti was like, "Okay, you couldn't get it done. You're gone, John Harbaugh." The next person, as we've said before, as I've said countless times, is got to be Eric DeCosta. So Lamar maybe maybe it's like, okay, I see that too. You're not doing what you need to do to surround me with the pieces that I need. Why am I going to sign a multi-year deal?
Yeah. Yeah, I brought this up, I think, when that was all happening, just feeling nervous about what the future looks like because when you see all those players go out, the guys who are the guys who are the Ravens, the guys who contribute to the identity, even if you are Lamar Jackson, that doesn't make you feel good about yourself. That makes you feel like you're disposable. That makes you feel like you could be the next guy out the door. And for years, people have kind of been speculating about Lamar's relationship with John Harbaugh. They've been saying that he's not the guy that Lamar feels comfortable with, and all of that kind of just like people are going to say whatever they're going to say. No one's ever really going to know the truth except for Lamar
Mhm.
and EDC and John Harbaugh or whatever. But there has always just seemed to be something, just something that doesn't seem to gel there.
Yeah.
And I think he's on his final edge with it all. I think he's just over it. I think he's trying to see because he is 30 this
Yeah.
year. Well, going into next year, he'll be 30 at the top of next year. But like he's been in the league for 8, 9 years and like
A while.
he wants one, two, three Super Bowl rings by now. He doesn't want to be in the position where he's still fighting for it. I think he's tired. I think he's probably after last season, a little bit pissed off. Like he spent all that time injured. That's not where he wants to be. And was that a fault of his own, or was that the fault of the offensive line around him, allowing people to get to him the way that they did? And he's also had to carry this team on his shoulders
Hmm.
for years, for his
Hmm.
entire time. And while he's had weapons at varying levels over the time he's had the guys that he's kind of asked for. I think Zay Flowers was a big ask for him. I think there were like previous years where he was asking for like when Odell Beckham Jr. came in for a year or 2 years, I think he'd asked for him. So he is being listened to and he is being respected, but I just think he's a little bit tired of it. And I
Hmm.
do think he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to feel it out because I don't know that this new regime is going to work. I don't know that it's going to work for me. I don't know what the future, and I'm not looking in for another 3 to 5 years where these could be my best years. These could be the years where I could go somewhere else. Because honestly, outside of the Chiefs and the Bills, I think every other team would drop their quarterback for him in a second. Maybe the Rams also, but Matthew Stafford's career's on the line too, in the next couple of years. So I feel like he knows it. He could go anywhere else. And I think that he's just waiting to see. And I don't want to like add to the speculation because I think Lamar just is a private guy and he never is really going to seem one way or the other about something. So it's easy to speculate with him and it's easy to speculate with the Ravens in general because of how mysterious they are about their operations. But you got to be feeling a type of way of like, I need to see some real positive changes this year before I'm signing my name down to another few years.
Yeah, no, I mean that's hitting the nail on the head for sure. I mean, and you look at all of his opponents, or rather his rivals. You look at the way that Patrick Mahomes they built around him. Not so much Josh Allen, which is obviously you see the Bills have struggled because it's taken them forever to give him a wide receiver that matters. So
Hmm.
you look at that, you look at the formula, but then you look at the NFC. You look at how Jalen Hurts was built around. You look at how Matthew Stafford is built around. How Sam Darnold in 1 year was built around. And you look at those examples and you go, "What the hell are you guys doing? Why are you not?
Hmm.
What are you doing for me when I'm your star player or I'm the focal point of the offense of the team? What are you doing? What are you doing to give me those pieces?" And again, you look at Eric DeCosta's decision making, and it's starting not to look as great these past couple of seasons, at least. And then you start, okay, it's either him or me. And if you're not willing to bring somebody in here that's going to mold and gel around me, then I'm gone. And so we've talked about this, and everyone's like, oh, well, trade this and blah 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 that and whatever. But I mean, like you look at all of these elements, all of these tangible things, and it starts to make sense why he would not want to buy in for another 5-year contract.
Yeah, and Derek Henry, one more year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's his backup guy. That's his go-to. That's the guy that he trusts. Zay also, I think, what is it next year he becomes a
mhm,
undrafted free agent. These are his guys that he trusts. And he's like, hey, I trusted Tyler.
yeah,
I trusted all these guys that you've let walk out of the building. Now I don't know. Like, for a quarterback, you need those guys. Those just like guys that every single time you go to them, they are locked in.
Yeah,
They are 100%. They are, Mark Andrews obviously just got re-signed. That's great. That's one person that Lamar loves to throw to, loves and trusts. But, the rest of them, where are they now? Not on the team. They're in New York. Which-
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that leads into our next point that you briefly brought up, but the moves that are going on
yeah.
here, not necessarily a bad thing, but also kind of point to this idea of like, what if you have to have a bigger insurance policy? So we were talking, funny enough, we were talking about this about how the Ravens are not the Browns, but all of a sudden,
They've become
out
the
of
Browns.
nowhere, they have become the Browns in a way.
They're haunted by their past.
So yeah, we talked about Diego Pavia being signed to a 3-year deal. They also signed UConn quarterback Joe Fagnano to a 3-year deal. That's not those both are not big deals in general. They're minimum 3-year deals with no guarantee, nothing. So they could easily cut both of those guys
Yeah.
and send them on their way before week 1 if they don't make the practice squad or what have you. But now the Ravens brought in Skylar Thompson, who played for the Steelers and played for the Dolphins. And already this poses a big problem because if you bring a veteran in, there's even less of a chance that your undrafted free agents are going to surpass that person. Not to say that Skylar Thompson is a good quarterback by any means. He lit up preseason last year, but still didn't get the backup position with the Steelers. That went to, oh my God, what's his name? Um, damn it.
I don't know because they have so many people going in and out of that building.
For what is his name? Oh my God. It's not Mitch Trubisky. I always confuse them. Oh God. Sorry. This is Mason Rudolph. Anyway, so
Oh,
it
yeah.
went to Mason Rudolph, but
He's been there.
Thompson showed a lot of promise in that preseason, but that's preseason. So anyway, the point being, you bring in Skylar Thompson now. Now you have 5 quarterbacks. And Jesse Minter said this very plainly that they would like to have 3 to 5 quarterbacks going into training camp, which is not a big deal. This is not a big deal by any means. A lot of teams do this. Of course, you're going to bring on those undrafted free agents. You got to see who you have developmental wise, who you got backup wise, who you got third emergency quarterback wise. But for all intents and purposes, they already have that. They have Lamar Jackson. They have Tyler Huntley. The third emergency quarterback could be any one of these 3 guys. But
Hmm.
it just points to the kind of not confusion, but like it kind of stokes the fire of like what's really going on. Are they trying to find somebody that they could work with in the event that Lamar Jackson does not want to come back?
Yeah. It just feels very un-Ravens like. It's not something that they do. They don't seem to collect quarterbacks in this way. Like we said about doing due diligence and letting Diego come in and this other guy come in and be there and just, for like a PR type thing of like, oh, aren't we so good letting these guys have a second chance or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
but still my back goes up just because it is so not like what we've seen before. And this now adding this Skylar Thompson to the mix, it
Mhm.
does seem to be because I've said it and I've said it multiple times about the system only works with Lamar and Snoop, and outside of that, it doesn't work. Maybe they're trying to combat that by bringing in these guys, and they're like, we're diversifying, we're not doing this where it only works with you two because this isn't a long-term solution for us. I don't know why you need to figure out a long-term solution right now because Lamar hopefully will be there for another 10 years of his career. But that's just why it ended up kind of looking a little bit suspicious to me was like, well, do they sense that Lamar's not happy and do they feel like they need to be kind of addressing this sooner than they thought they had to be? But again, that's all tinfoil hat business that we'll find out over the next year or so. But yeah, it just didn't seem very Ravens like. It seemed very out of the ordinary. It helps to have three. There was a issue last year with Lamar and with Snoop. Took him a while to get on the field because they had Cooper Rush in the way. But yeah, I'm happy to see how it unfolds. It's just one of those things that again just raises the red flags a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and again, these guys are undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
They're already gonna have a tough time making the 53-man roster and the practice squad as well. Like
Hmm.
they're already up against everybody else. But then on top of that, you bring in Skylar Thompson, who's probably gonna take that third job, and hope that
It
that
could be as
works out.
simple as that. They could have just seen
Yeah,
them and been like, nah, they're not Ravens. We're gonna
yeah.
Skylar, you're in.
And we talked about Diego Pavia before, so Minter had said very importantly, he said, "quote So now he's in the door, and it's like show us what you can do, let the chips fall where they may, and just like all the undrafted rookies, that's what I would say." So he said this multiple times. We've talked about Pavia's issues, his critiques, his character concerns, as everybody's brought up, saying F all the voters with an Instagram post when he lost to Fernando Mendoza, supposedly urinating on an opponent's field, just being arrogant and cocky, which he calls confidence. It's not a good look already, but,
No.
and just
And
the
it's
fact that,
very not Ravens like.
right, and the fact that Jesse Minter has had to say multiple times, we're gonna just see what he can do, and I'll have conversations about how to present yourself, whatever. So maybe they're just helping the kid out. Maybe
Yeah.
it's like, hey, come in here, get yourself in a better position. You're going to go to another team and potentially get a backup job there or whatever, third emergency quarterback job, what have you. So it's not a big deal. But the fact that they're bringing in five quarterbacks to see what they can do does present kind of a bit of a worry when you think about what Kyle Van Noy said and then also our tinfoil hat belief about what could be going on with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I think it's normal to kind of be a little bit antsy about. I don't think anyone's worried that Skylar Thompson's coming in and taking Lamar Jackson's job. That's not the case.
No.
It just when you've got five in the room in like a just a thing that doesn't usually happen. If it, like I said, the Browns, fine, that happens every year. It's not confusing. But over in Baltimore, it's a little bit different. But like we said, it could just have been as simple as they gave those guys a couple of days, decided they weren't going to work out for them, and now they've brought Skylar Thompson in, and the conversation's going to be finished there.
No.
You need three.
You
You
need
don't need
three.
five.
No, you need three, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's a lot of training camp to get through, OTAs to get through, and all that, and we'll see who the final three end up being. Which obviously it's going to be Lamar and Huntley. Past that, we don't know. Um, but this leads into our final point, which is something that we've been harping on, which everyone's been harping on, but more so us because we just continue to keep talking about it. And again, it's the center position. So nothing's been done. Eric DeCosta has been trying to explain why nothing happened. He talked about the top two guys that they liked getting taken early, where they could have taken them easily, but they didn't. Again, this goes back to like the decision making here. And Jeff Zrebiec, who is the Athletics Ravens beat writer, longtime beat writer, said it's more so likely that they're going to be trading for their starting center, which is
Yeah.
something we've brought up before, because I still don't feel like the center's in the building yet. We'll talk a little bit about Venga in a moment. But that being said, he brought up Gary Bradbury, who is the Chicago Bears starting center, came from the Patriots, I believe it was.
Yep.
But because they got Logan Jones, who was a guy that Eric DeCosta and the Ravens were high up on and talked about, that if he ends up being the starting safety that or center that they need, there's an opportunity there for the Ravens to go in and trade for Bradbury, which would be great because then you have your starting center right there. Jovan Gwynn, John Simpson, Corey Bullock, and Danny Pinter are who you got for depth and potential other starting positions. Right now, of them, it would make more sense for maybe Danny Pinter to be the starting safety or Corey Bullock as the direct backup there, and then probably John Simpson on the left side, and then left guard side, and then you do Venga on the right guard side. That's how I see
Yeah.
it playing out right now. But interestingly enough, Venga Ioane also did say that he played left guard, right guard, but he also played a little bit of center with his coach. That doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, he can just be the center, but they're probably going to try him out just to see anyway. He's that young. The way he plays is violent and crazy. Like even in the rookie minicamp videos, you're like, whoa, this dude moves. He's quick. He could
Hmm.
be that kind of pancake blocker that you need that Tyler Lindenbaum was. But I don't know. Right now, it just
Yeah.
doesn't seem likely. He's probably going to take a guard position because they need that. Andrew Voorhees did not cut it. Daniel Falali is gone. Like I said, John Simpson's could be left or right. You put Vanga on the right. You got a good starting five there if you trade for a starting center like Bradbury. Or I don't know, maybe they roll with Danny Pinter, but it's still up in the air, and there's still a major concern there that just hasn't been figured out.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you were saying about Eric DaCosta's job. I'm really not in the camp that he has anything to be worried about anytime soon, but they're not getting what you really need to get is an issue. I think he obviously sees potential in Ioane to be that, at least try it, at least contribute to taking the pressure off of elsewhere because I think it's so hard to talk about the center position without just like being like, well, Tyler Linderbaum, because he was there and he was perfect. As for the Garrett Bradbury thing, I think it makes sense. You need someone who's a vet. You know, he's 30 years old, he's been around the league for a while, he knows the drill, he can do it. It's his job. You know, I think he had some time together with their offensive line coach, Dwayne Ledford. I think that they've been together at NC State. So, you know, that's another relationship thing, which is great. You know, he could probably fit him in and know his skill set. And, but I agree. I just think it's a situation, they're not finished. And Eric DeCosta has spoken about not being finished. But the issue is time is running out for that not to be finished. And it's no good testing it out for that much longer. Like you don't have time to keep moving these guys. Like this is Lamar Jackson that you're protecting. You
Yeah.
you don't want him to be injured. And the second you don't like the second the chemistry's off on that line, because this is an all new line. These are an entire house of new guys protecting your quarterback, you know, for the most part. And so it just raises alarm bells and just has I don't know, it's just something that they really need to continue to address. I think they are going to continue to test everyone out, but I don't know how much longer that's going to be beneficial for them. And I think it would help to just have a guy in the building who's been around. Maybe he's not been in Baltimore, but he's been around. You know, he's 30 years old, been in the league for maybe like a decade almost. That can't hurt. It's just, is the price right? Does it
Yeah.
make sense? Do they want to do it? But it's just really difficult to talk about the situation because it's not like you're just replacing some guy, you're replacing the best center in the league. And I think that they're just going to continue to scratch their head over it until like they're just like, well, it's week one now. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and that poses a huge problem because again, I'm gonna continue tying this to Eric DeCosta's job. Like if this is a major concern and that
Hmm.
you just skip over and you're like, oh well, the two top guys that we liked were gone, but you still had a chance to get I think Connor Liu, and then you still had a chance to get Sam Hecht, and then you
Just
didn't do that.
someone to show you did
Yeah.
it.
And then again, even in the seventh round, if you would have got a developmental center, at least, but that didn't
Mm.
happen. And now you're like scrambling, oh, we're going to try to trade for somebody. We're going to bring some more people in. But who? Like, who is left for that's really going to be somebody like Ethan Pocic I brought up before, but like beyond that, there's not really a lot of like high level centers anymore. You kind of waited too long, and if that becomes a major problem, especially it screws up the run game. You can't protect Lamar the way that you want to.
You haven't got anything then on offense at least.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like it just it's a very big pain point that I'm hoping that they're going to address in a big way. We'll see. They Eric DeCosta keeps talking about it, but still nothing's been done. But again, you got to look at what you got training camp wise, OTA wise. So maybe they're going to kind of play around with their offensive line that they have in right now and see what they can come up with. And if something gels and it works, then great. Then they're good.
Hmm.
But you're banking kind of on a long shot here.
Yeah, and I'll compare it to the Rams in a sense of like some weird cracks are showing that just haven't shown before. You know, the Rams and Ravens are both very secretive organizations, very much get things done under but I'm seeing Eric DeCosta sweat, and I don't like it.
Hmm.
That's not him.
Hmm.
Don't keep that to yourself. If you didn't get the center, you didn't get the center. Don't talk about it. Don't keep saying that it's an issue. It's just very odd to me that I don't know, he's seemingly kind of just showing those like little concerns that he just hasn't done in the past. And it's not a good look. Like
Hmm.
you're running a whole new organization now. Like there's three new coach or a whole new staff of people in the building. It doesn't look good. And you're the one grounding center. You're the guy that remained. You're the guy that stayed. You need
Hmm.
to be that anchor for everyone and being like, we got this, we're going to figure it out. I like the guys we have. Even if it just is all talk and you don't mean it, just say you like the guys that you have and you're going to figure it out and just keep it away. Everyone knows you need a center. You can still have those conversations. I just don't get why he continues to kind of like bring it to. I know people are going to keep asking him about it, and so he's going to have to keep talking about it, but can you just brush it under the rug and move on?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, you know, we'll see. There's plenty of time to still kind of add people. There's plenty of time, not plenty of time, but I mean, there's still time to add people, to get into training camp and get everything sorted. But
It was less than a
it's
month.
it's still, it's still a major issue. It's still a major concern. We'll see what happens. Yeah, this has been Roundtable Ravens episode number 23. We will be back next week to talk more Ravens football and see where the team currently is. I want to say that they don't have anything going on in terms of their offseason dates until the end of May, I believe it is. Let me look this up real quick. Really quickly. Yeah, so OTA's offseason workouts start May 18th to the 19th, 21st, 26th to 28th, June 1st to 2nd, and June 4th. And then mandatory minicamp is up on June 9th and 10th. And then training camp shortly after that, well, mid-July-ish. But there's still a lot to answer with this team. Is Zay Flowers going to get a deal? They're going to keep the fifth-year option? We don't know. But thank you
Hmm.
guys so much for listening, and we will be back next week.